Alright guys, welcome back to Funky Fishing. It's been a second. It's winter here in New York, and that gets me dreaming of the Florida Keys. Now, I personally have been doing a lot of fishing here in New York. You guys have seen all the stripers, the bluefish, everything that we get into over here. But, you know, every now and then I'll go visit Florida. I'll go to the piers, I'll go to the bridges in the Florida Keys. Beautiful. But I'll never have the kayak with me, so I'll be, you know, superficially fishing. But this end of the March until early April, hopefully the beginning of that tarpon season, me and my buddy Alul is over here. We're going to go head out to the, he's helping me on the camera by the way. We're going to head out to the Keys, bring our kayaks, and see what trouble we could get into essentially. So I put many hours of research, countless YouTube videos and hours. And I've compiled a bunch of lures, leaders, hooks, anything you need basically to catch a whole bunch of fish down there. Now when I'm talking fish, I'm talking some of the best fish. Jack crevalle, that's like almost a given. That's almost like a trash fish in the Keys. Like from New York, I would love to catch Jack crevalle. Caught a couple, but I want to get a real big one. So Jack crevalle, barracuda, we got the Spanish mackerel, we got the Cero mackerel, we got some of the heavy hitters like grouper. That's going to be tough to catch, but you know, hopefully we'll get into it. The tarpon, that's going to be our main focus. That's going to be our mission. We are going to get a tarpon. Tarpon, hopefully 100, 120 pounds. We'll probably get into some juveniles, but really we're going to be focused on the 120 pound. And I'm going to show you guys the type of hooks and the type of setups you need for that, because that is a special fish to land. That's for sure. That's going to be like the main event of the whole trip. But maybe we'll get into some snook. They hang out in the mangroves, but we're going to be hitting a lot of the channels. You know, we'll see there, but we're definitely going to get mangrove snappers, 100%. We're going to cook those up. We're going to fry them. We got what did we get? Oh yeah, we're going to bring this guy with us. We're going to be using a lot of that. Going to try to only eat fish. Right here, this is the product angle. We're going to try to only eat fish as much as we can as a protein. You know, we'll get some coleslaw, some potato chips, whatever it is. Essentially, this is really a video to help you guys, the viewers at home. You don't have to watch thousands of hours to figure out the lures. This is hopefully a one-stop shop to get all your lures, all the things that you need for the Florida Keys for whatever fish you want to catch, whether you're doing it from a bridge, whether you're doing it from a kayak, from a boat, from the land, from the surf, whether you're in Key West, Isla Mirada, Marathon, anywhere you are on the Keys. There's a little guide. So let's get into it. So let's start with maybe the most important part, which is the terminal tackle. What's at the end of your line? What is gonna hook them? The hook. So when it comes to specifically, one of the things we're targeting majorly is tarpon. All right, we're gonna have bycatch like barracuda and sharks, but really we're targeting tarpon. Okay, when it comes to that, there's two sizes generally that we're gonna need, that we're gonna use, and that's the 5/0 circle hooks. Get a little shot. And the 7/0 circle hooks. Now you may think that this is for a bigger tarpon and this is for a smaller tarpon, but no. It's really, you want to match the bait that you're using. Alright, so if you have a small little pinfish, then you want to use a 5. But if you have a bigger pinfish, then you want to use the 7. You know, you want to match the size of your bait, not necessarily the size of the fish on that one. Now additionally, just in case we want to get into some sharks or whatever it is, we got some 9/0s and some 10/0s. Now those are for the big boys. That you got to hook up real good. Now let's just continue with the hooks before we get into the leaders. And another thing good to bring with you if you want to get into mangrove snapper, or let's say just any fish like a barracuda or a little Spanish mackerel, you want to put a little chunk of a mullet or a little chunk of pinfish on there. You got your 3/0s, which is a very standard size for most fish down there. You know, you don't really need to get that much bigger unless you're going for tarpon. So another one you can use is a bait holder, and that is like for smaller chunks. And let's say you want a chunk at the side of a bridge for like little mangrove snapper, or you know, of course legal size, but you know, just the smaller ones, like 14 inches, something like that. And lastly, we have these little size 6 mustads, and this is for ballyhoo. I just remember being in the Keys and being near the pier and just always seeing ballyhoo, and I'm like, how the heck do you catch those things? Because the sabiki wouldn't work. And apparently you just use these really long, small, really size 12, not size 6, but I couldn't find the size 12 at my local Dick's, so I got a size 6. And this is how you get a little ballyhoo. They're a really good chunk bait, and they're also great live bait. Now, when you hook up these hooks, you gotta attach a leader. A leader is just as important as a hook. Why? You need the right pound test. It needs to be chafe proof. You got to make sure, is it wire leader? Is it mono leader? Is it fluoro leader? What kind of leader do I need based on what fish I'm going for? Does the fish have teeth? Is the fish just like a sandpaper situation like striper or tarpon? It really all depends. So you have all different types of sizes that we're going to bring with us on this trip. From 20 pound, that's for like mangrove snapper. 30 pound, that's, we could already get snook and some jack ball with the 30 pound. 40 pound, just nice in between, or I don't know if I'm gonna be using 40 pound. They've said that you use 40 pound like on a super clear day where like there's tarpon around, but they can maybe get spooked by 60 pound or 80 pound, so why not? Then 60 pound. This is the go-to all around. If you're only gonna use 1 pound test for tarpon, it's 60 pound test. And that's why we have a whole bunch of this and we're gonna be hooking it up. 80 pound test is probably what we're gonna start off with, because what I've done the research and seen is that for 80 pounds, that's when you can really manhandle the fish, bring it up to the kayak, take your picture, you know, hold it for a sec. And just so you know, if it's over 40 inches, you can't take it out of the water. Not that I think I could lift that type of fish, but in order to break its spirit and get that sweet shot that you want, you know, that glory shot, 80 pound test. So that's what we got that for. And then, you know, sometimes we'll catch some jack crevalles. Maybe I'll keep a couple just for bait. What you do is you cut that right in half, you hook it up to the big 10-0 for the sharks. Then you use your 150 pound leader, but you also additionally attach it to 124 pound wire. All right, with these two combinations, you could catch a lot of sharks. Maybe not the great white, but a lot of sharks. I mean, look at the size of that. I could hook us. It could bring me in, that's for sure. On any type of rig where I'm using something that spins, if I'm trolling or if I'm throwing a lure, we're going to be using these ball bearings over here, and they're just very good to make sure that you don't get line spin or anything like that when you're out in the water. So just to give a little bit of what the tarpon setup's going to look like, it would be, let's say, the 7-0 attached to a 60 pound test, and it would be attached with a loop knot. Okay, the loop knot is what allows the most amount of movement and range, and like the uni is like fine and it's easy and that's good, but get used to the loop knot and you'll catch more fish, okay? So that's what we're gonna be using. And then depending on what kind of fish we're using, whether it's a pinfish go to the bottom. So for a pinfish, you're gonna need a bobber, because you don't want them going to the bottom, because tarpon, they look up, they feed up. So you're gonna want it to be like maybe 1/3 to 2/3 down in the water column. So maybe you're in 10 feet of water or 20 feet of water, so you want it at 8 feet or something. So after 8 feet of leader, you put this little bobber, and that just ensures that your little pinfish over here is swimming around and he can't go all the way to the bottom. He just kind of stays there, cruising around, going around, and boom, tarpon comes and he's gone. All right, but that's the basic setup for tarpon, you know, for the most part. Now, let's say it's really, really, really windy, and it's just doesn't look like it's good. Like maybe it's the storm's coming, you don't want to get out on the kayak, you don't want to get out on the water, whatever it is, and you want to go to the bridge. What do you bring with you? So at the bridge, that's where we're dealing with like 30 pound, 20 pound, all right? And we're going for mangrove snapper, or maybe there's some, there's strong current, there could be some jack crevalle or barracudas rolling through. And for that, generally we hook up a 3-0 to 20 pound or 30 pound test, and we do a knocker rig, okay? And in the knocker rig, we use these egg sinkers, okay? So I'll show you probably on a later video exactly what it looks like. But essentially this little egg sinker over here, okay, it sits right on top of the hook. Like you put it on the line and then you tie the hook to it so it sits right on top. So when you throw it out, it just sits right there on the bottom, and the line with the hook can still travel through it freely. So the idea is your bait is kind of just like dangling there, or you can let more line out and it slips through the hole because it's an egg sinker. I'll show it later in the video more detailed, but that's the basic setup for that. It's just some egg sinkers, some 20-30 pound leader, 3-0 size hooks, and you're good to go. Hard baits. Maybe one of my favorite baits to use because they don't break or rip. You could keep using them. If they get scratched up, that's just a battle scar in my opinion. And yeah, they're just great to use. So let's get into it. First off, we're going to be trying some trolling over there. I'm only bringing very limited because there are some deep channels like 20-25 feet, but in the kayak, we're not going to be going out to like the reef where it's like 40-50 feet. And so I'm just going to bring one of these. But this is Rapala. 25 foot this dives down to. I will probably barely be using this because the Keys is mostly like 2, 3, 4, 5 feet, you know, generally depending on the tide. So that's this guy. We're gonna hook it up, and these colors, I really do enjoy these colors, the red and the white. I have a lot of luck with white in Florida, and I haven't even been to Florida that much, and I've had a lot of luck with it. I've got many Jack Crevalles with specifically, where is it? This white, which we'll get into, but white, good color. The colors that the waters down there are clear, so the white comes out real good, and the red is just a lot of fish are red. It's a good dynamic to have on there. All right, now continuing on is another Rapala. This is a long cast, which means you could just cast it really far. It's just a little bit heavier. Notice the hooks that I got on there are, you know, they're not the trebles. A little bit easier on the fish, a little bit easier to use. You'll notice here, this is a special hook that's designed to be on lures. And this one here is actually a normal hook where I just took 2 split rings that are rated for 50 pound. I don't want to lose a fish. And just put them right here. And you know, we'll see how it works. I think it'll be fine. I've read that it'll be fine. And if anything, it looks to me like it just gives it a little more action. You know, there's more room to catch that fish. But specifically, this Rapala in Ghost, what is it called? You see, I even got another one. I love this color so much. It is called Ghost something. Glass Ghost. Glass Ghost. And that is the go-to. I basically went to Florida the first time ever when I was like seriously fishing, and on the pier, this guy was using the Glass Ghost, and he was catching Spanish mackerels, he was catching Jack Crevalle, he was catching everything that was there. So I made sure to definitely get myself into these. Now to continue, we bring the size up on the Rapala, and I bought this before I even knew I would like fish a lot, and this just looks colorful to me. I just was thinking like Florida, this looks like orange juice and like orangey and neon, and Florida, the fish in Florida are neon. That was my thinking behind it. So decided to bring this, the Rapala orange, white, and yellow. Additionally, just in case we get into some tarpon, so tarpon, some of the things that they do is they roll. Okay, when they're just, sometimes they just need to breathe. They're one of the fish that they gulp, and they gulp some water. And when they do that, you can just see them come out of the water just like that. And it's kind of like it creates a little bit of a wave or a ripple. And when that happens, it's very good to have a top water lure. Now this is a popper. And what this guy does is it just pops right on top of the water, it floats, it pops right on top of the water. And that action and staying on top of the water really excites the tarpon. And the tarpon are looking at the top, they see, oh, maybe this fish is hurt or something, and they go right for it. With these, you just got to make sure you have a heavy leader on. With all of these, especially if it's for tarpon, you got to make sure you have at least 60-pound fluorocarbon or mono, you know, something along the lines of that. And if you're throwing any of these things that I'm about to show you at a mackerel or a barracuda or anything like that, you got to make sure to have wire leader. Whoop. All right, this one is the go-to one that my research has shown me, 44 pound. You could get 38 pound, but I think more than this, it gets a little bit thicker and you just don't need more weight than that. And so I plan on doing a lot of trolling down there. So a couple of these hard baits, and the hard baits are great for trolling, I've hooked up with that wire. As you can see, it's a haywire twist attached to a barrel swivel. I did not have the ball bearing barrel swivels at the time that I made this, otherwise I would have used that, but you see it's hooked up right to the split ring on that bait, and we're just going to pull it along right behind the kayak, and you need that little bit of extra for the barracudas and the Spanish mackerels out there, because we really want to catch those. They're supposed to taste awesome, specifically Cero mackerels. Cero mackerels are supposed to be sashimi grade, so I'm going to bring my soy sauce and we'll see what we do over there. But to continue, what else are we going to be trolling now that we're on the subject of trolling? This is like the diamond jig. This is like the go-to metal that my research has told me in Florida. This is a Clark spoon, and I believe it imitates a squid. As you can see, it's kind of in the shape of a squid, and I haven't actually used this one before. I'm not even sure how it wobbles. I feel like it wobbles like this. I think it spins. That's why, I have it on the barrel swivel here, so it doesn't twist my line. But again, this is candy for the Spanish mackerel. They love it. I've seen a lot of Spanish mackerel caught on this specifically. Barracuda as well. I don't know about tarpon or jacks. I mean, I imagine they would go for this. It's shiny. Why wouldn't they? But this is supposed to be the Spanish mackerel killer, one of the Spanish mackerel killers. And additionally, just any old spoon. This is a crocodile spoon. Again, everything's wired up. You got to be ready for those teeth, man. You never know. All right. So now on the topic of Spanish mackerels and mackerels in general, we have this little metal lure. This is a little gotcha lure, little guy. You hook it up to some 30-pound leader. I've seen them hook it up to maybe some wire. I mean, you could lose this guy, maybe it's okay. And all you do is you sporadically pull on it, and it just jolts around. And this one's kind of worse for the wear, as you can see, but it comes much shinier generally. And I actually caught one Spanish mackerel on this at a Newport Pier in Sunny Isles, Miami, and that was amazing. That was my first Spanish mackerel on a lure. What else we got over here? Oh, just in general. So when we start hooking up all those hooks to the mono, going for tarpon, it's very possible and it's very likely that the sharks and the barracudas are going to start to break us off. And that's just part of it. You got to bring it in. You got to rehook it again with the mono. If you're very, very like, okay, I'm going for tarpon, you just got to lose hooks, and that's just the way it is. But let's say you get fed up with it. You can't deal with it. You're like, that's it. The barracudas are here. I guess I'm going to catch barracudas. You got to make sure to bring with you hooks that are ready with wire. Okay? All you do is you hook the end of this guy. You kind of like bend this over, and then you tie the end of your mono leader, whether it's 60-pound or whatever it is, to the end of this. And now you have an extra wire leader so that when the barracuda comes, and this is his mouth, and eats it, his teeth would normally break off this part here. This would be the mono, it would break it off. But now it's metal, and the mono's all the way over here, so it ain't breaking. So you're gonna catch that fish, and it's gonna be yours, and you're gonna be full. It's gonna be great. Fry it up, blacken it up, do it all. All right, so moving on, top water. Let's go back into top water a little bit. This seems to be one of the most popular top water lures in the Keys. And that's probably saying a lot, but it is. Now, what this I've seen used for a lot is just from land, throwing it at the water, and specifically, by the way, the Super Spook Junior. Spook Junior, okay? We do have the adult spook right here. But for whatever reason, this is what comes up in the forums. This is what catches the juvenile tarpon. This is what catches the snook. This is what catches the jack crevalle. This definitely does. But whatever, sometimes you just go with what the locals and forums are saying, right? And as you can see, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's two different hooks here. So this is actually the bigger, beefier Super Spook. And you could just see the difference. Okay, look at the size of those hooks. Look how, like, the width. Kind of thin. And you see these are just heavier duty. You got the split. Look at the size of the split ring here compared to that. You want to upgrade this if you're going to deal with juvenile tarpon. Who knows? Maybe you'll get into a big tarpon. You want to be prepared. All right, what else we got? Now this is kind of like soft bait, hard bait, kind of. But yeah, bucktails, classic here in the East. We use them all the time for stripers. It is the go-to. They definitely use it in the Keys. I've seen a whole bunch of videos in the Keys where they use it. But yeah, this is this you hook up like a gulp to or whatever it is, and you just jig it off the bottom, jig it on the top. It depends on your retrieve, how you want to use it. You definitely want to hook these guys up to a loop knot. Not all of these things have to be to a loop knot, but this definitely, because it's directly to the eye of the actual lure, you want that mobility in the loop knot. And sometimes they're looking for small ones, little guys, so you gotta come prepared. Soft plastics. What do you gotta get? Gulp, zoom, gotcha. Let's see. So, obviously, every fisherman is not complete. one bag of gulp at least. And for the keys, through my research, I've seen this is what you got to bring, all right? So first of all, shrimp. Boom, shrimp. Different colors, shrimpy shrimps. Now shrimps are good and they're bad. They are good because everything will eat them, and that's the same reason they're bad, because everything will eat them. If you put this shrimp here on this this jig head here, I think this is a 1/4 ounce jig head over here. If you hook it up to this, everything in the Florida Keys will eat this, including small little fish. Okay, so when you're using this combination, you want to make sure that you have an idea of like, this is a spot where maybe a little bit of bigger fish are, in current, whatever it is. Because if you just throw it out all willy-nilly, you're going to get little bait fish are going to eat this. Little fish you use to catch the big fish are going to eat this setup. All right, but shrimp, this is one of the best baits there are. Now, of course, there's also the classic paddle tail that works everywhere in the world. As you know, paddle tails, they work. Again, you hook it up to maybe a 3/4 ounce jig. And on this 3/4 ounce jig, it's if the current's a little bit higher, or if you want to get it really to the bottom, that's what you're going to use. Now, let's keep it on the gulp topic. With these gulps over here, these are 6-inch gulps. These are pretty big gulps. And on these big gulps, one of the things I like to do is hook it up to these hooks right here. All right, these are owner hooks. I'm sorry, no, these are, owner twist lock hooks. And what they do is they allow you to put the nose of your bait right through those twist hooks, and you hook it up to the rest of the hook. I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. But yeah, that's what you would use. Now moving on, just in case we get into permit, I don't think we're going to get into permit, but I want to be prepared. So we got crabs. Not those kind of crabs. We got crabs. And these crabs we're just going to hook onto a normal jig head. And if we see a permit, we're going to throw it at the permit and see what happens. Maybe we'll get lucky. That's really a fish that's one of the harder fish to catch. On the subject of that shrimp that we were talking about before with the gulp, there's more realistic shrimp out there on the market, and through a lot of research and a lot of different videos, these are the go-to that I found. All right, voodoo shrimp and DOA shrimp. All right, specifically 3 inches. I got 4 inches on this one by accident, so I went out and I have the 3 inches somewhere. But in the Keys, the shrimp are generally a little bit smaller. From what I understand, the jumbo shrimp are just maybe, I don't know if they're further somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico, but they're just not in the Keys. They're generally 3 inches. But these specifically in the glow are good for at night, and I want to use these to target juvenile tarpon at night. That's going to be fun. And then these voodoo shrimp, I've seen countless people catching snook, jack crevalle, a whole bunch of fish on this. And I don't know if you guys could see, but let's get a close up. There's little weights over there, and those weights are positioned not in the front like if you're using a jig head, but kind of like in the middle. So when you throw this out, it's gonna like flutter down in a very natural way that a shrimp would. Instead of like if the weight was at the front, it would just kind of like go down, like just like. But here it's gonna flutter. So voodoo shrimp, I have high hopes for this guy. Additionally, we're gonna just have the classic fish bites. You know, these work a lot out here in the east. Just hook them up to a bucktail or whatever. And the otter tail, I've seen these guys paired with a bucktail catch tarpon at night. So I have high hopes for that. Now let's talk about the main event, the tarpon. What are we going to be throwing at the tarpon? Let's get all this stuff out of the way. Oh, don't forget, guys. It's a nice little paddle tail. Works real good. And it's Spanish mackerel, so, you know, it's definitely what the fish out there are eating. So, getting into the tarpon. Hoagie. That's what we need. All right, the tarpon, when you're talking big fish, you're talking big plastics, big lures. All right, here we got a whole bunch of big lures. Okay, we've got the smaller version and the bigger version. What is this, the 6-inch? 10-inch? I think it's a 10-inch one. Big and small, they both catch tarpon. All right, this white color over here, it's good to use during the day.
Exactly how big it is, just for science sake.
Oh, for science sake, guys, we have off camera a little with the official. Okay. Okay, we have checked with the official referee, Mr. David over here, and we got a 10-inch hoagie and a 7-inch hoagie. And you'll notice that these are both rigged up. Now, how are they rigged up? You can see this one here is rigged up with weight, okay? Now I'm going to undo this just so you guys can see what we're doing here. Alright. Basically, you go out in Dick's, they sell these. They're specifically for hoagie, but you could find other companies that do similar type things. And the whole cool thing about this is, one, it's weighted, but two, it has this little spring lock that can really keep that bait in place. So all you do is you go at the base of the nose, okay, and you try to get everything centered. All right, let's get my tactile abilities. All right. In the center, and then you just start twisting it on the twist until it gets to the end of its nose. You want to make sure it's facing the right way. Okay, and then at this point, you're going to want to put it on the hook. But how do you determine where on the soft plastic you want it to be? So we know that, look, it's sitting naturally right now, and that's where it's going to want to exit the actual hoagie. So we kind of put our finger right there. We know that's where it wants to exit. So we enter the hook right where we marked, and we pull it right out. And then look, there you go. You got the hook right now, ready for that tarpon to grab. And if you want it to be weedless, you just kind of pinch it up, and boom, weedless, ready to go. Now, specifically in the Florida Keys, tarpon, they're focused a lot more on the top water. So it's actually not the greatest thing that we have a weight over here. So another product we got is these, I couldn't find the weightless ones, all right, but they had this in Dick's, Lunker City. These are big hooks.
I have some other hoagie hooks. You want to see them? Yeah, should I pull them out?
Oh, you have the non-weighted?
I'll show you what I have, yeah.
Let's see if we have non-weighted. Do we have non-weighted? We have our official here checking for us if we have non-weighted. Hallelujah! We found it! Wow, okay.
I also have this, it's called the Goliath.
That's enough, alright. So we found it, guys. So yeah. So I couldn't find these in the store, but
I got it in mystery tackle box.
You ordered a mystery tackle box.
I got it from Bad Fish Supplies.
This is exactly what I need, but it's just not in stock in a lot of places, it seems. But again, I've been using this Lunker City one. But basically what you do, and let me just rig one up for you guys again, just to show you. And there you go. You got your hoagie ready to go. Now if you want it to be weedless, boom, you just tuck it in right there. And now it's going crazy everywhere. And the reason we want this as opposed to this is because this is weightless and we need top water when we're going for these tarpon in the Keys. This will be good for striper though. Alright guys, so we finished up with the hoagies. This is going to be one of our go-tos for the tarpon. But this, one of the downfalls of this is you have to give it its action. Because it'll just like move like this, you know. But you got to twitch it and make this go crazy, which is fine. You know, you got the skills. We're all fishermen here, right? But if you want to just throw it and bring it in and not even worry about it, not even think about it, boom, I gotcha. It's a gotcha. And these are 9-inch paddle tails. These are pretty big. And the way to rig these, I'll show you guys in a later video. You put one of those spring locks in here, you hook it up with a hook right in the front, you add a little bit of weight over here with a nail, and then you throw it out. And the reason why we have to do that whole weird complicated situation is because generally these are hooked, again, just like sometimes with the shrimp, you put a jig head right at the front. Now the problem with that is that it's going to make it drop right down like that, and also it's going to make it drop at all. We want top water. We don't want weight on this. We want it to be swimming on the top always. So the way to do that is just to add that little nail, like I said, which ensures that it keeps its swimming path without flipping over and doing all these weird things. And you just hook it right in the front over there. No more weight than that. You want it to keep it on the top. But yeah, I have a lot of promise for this, hopefully. All right, so that is pretty much the soft baits, the hard baits, the plastics, the hooks, the leaders, the setup. So let's just finish off with some jig heads. And in terms of jig heads, you just need a couple, all right? You're gonna want 2 ounces, okay? This 2 ounces, this is if it's ripping. The current is ripping and it's going hard. You want 3/4, this is if you wanna get to the bottom. You're gonna want 1/4 ounce, this is like your standard hook up a shrimp. You know, you're just throwing this, the current's like okay, you know, it's not like ripping or anything like that. And I think this is also a 1/4 ounce, but also an 1/8 ounce. I don't have it on here with me right now, but that's also great if you just want it to kind of just flutter on down at a slow pace. And all those jig heads is what you hook up the gulp to and all that kind of stuff. Well, that is basically most of the stuff, lure-wise, hook-wise, catching fish-wise, that I'm going to be bringing with me to the Florida Keys. That's what all the research and everything kind of like brought together. Really, if you guys bring even a fraction of any of these things, you'll catch fish in the Keys. All right, this is going to be the first part in a series of a whole bunch of Keys videos that we're going to do. Next up is going to be rods and reels. And of course, once we get into the Keys, we're going to be proving out all these things. Minnow, we're going to be throwing out all of these lures. We're going to be throwing out the zooms, the gotchas, the slugs, the bucktails, the shrimps, everything. And I guarantee you, we're going to catch something. And you guys just got to stay tuned, and you're going to love it. And don't forget, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Hey!